We are live.
It says live.
Yeah,
Are we
we're
live?
live. We're live and live for you. Hello, everyone.
Live and live. Hello,
Yes, yes,
everybody.
yes, we are live everywhere.
Hey, there's my
Uh,
official notification. We are officially live.
uh,
Thanks, Google Chrome.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, he's in the way. Anyway,
Oh my goodness. Oh, so we got cool stuff to talk about today.
we have a show.
Yeah, have a show.
We have a show.
Yeah, with the trust us, we do have a show.
Special
Might not.
guests, great guests lined up. It's going to be a big day. There's lots to talk about.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about comics, evidently. And rumor has that we talk about comics on the show.
Independent comics.
Independent comics. Well, of course, we'll take time to pick on everybody else who's not doing it right. And and what else will we do, Randy?
We're going to roll that opening.
Yeah, we're gonna roll the opening, and
Here. Ready?
I'm ready.
Rolling. We've rolled that opening.
Oh, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, how is everyone out there today?
It's a Tuesday,
Yeah,
and
Ted,
Ted's in the house.
hello, Ted. How are you?
This Rebel Comics and Gaming.
Yeah,
It says you have a show.
yeah. Um,
Any fallout from last week?
well, we suffered enough fallout. I mean,
We. Well, like I told you how we were gonna start it. At least we're not Jeff Hicks. We don't have that kind of fallout.
no.
It's all good.
Yeah, we'll get into the Jeff Hicks situation.
Rumor has it this is a show.
Yeah.
Did you know Time Travelers Mike Lester's business is up for sale? Ralph Griffith.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, man.
yeah, I saw that a couple days ago, Ralph. Yep.
Is it for sale?
Want to wish Mike Lester lots of good health and hope that he's looking to retire is what he's looking to do, and he's been doing this a long time. This is Larry. I was a guest
Yeah.
on your stream. Yeah,
Yeah.
Larry, how you doing, man?
Well, I knew that, but yeah. Yeah, Larry,
I have a bad time with names, Larry. I'm sorry. So I'll try not to forget your name or your Rebel Comics from now on.
oh man, we Time Travelers. I actually filmed a bit of a movie that we never released in there.
Yeah.
Years ago, yeah.
Which fallout were we expecting, Larry, from the wonderful cosplayers?
Yeah, we always get that. We tried to put the cosplayer situation to bed a little bit, but you know, you can try, but they don't necessarily have to let you. We do have questions though. We do have some statements that were written that were sent in. We had some emails that were sent in, very angry emails, all aimed at Mr. Randy.
Larry did a video on the cosplay situation.
Did you do a video on a cosplay or a video on? Yeah. Wow. Well, I have
On
to
the
check it out.
podcast?
Yeah. I have to check it out. I will look at it tonight when we're off there. Yeah, that's I'll have to look at it. I did not know it. I'm going to though. I'd like to see your take on it. On Jeff Hicks. He did a video on Jeff Hicks.
I'll be Oh, he did?
Yeah.
He did one on Jeff. Oh, Jeff Hicks. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll bring everybody up to speed with Jeff Hicks. And
Hi, Lola. Hi, Randy. Hi, Ted.
hello. As we are
Give me a second.
okay, he's a second. He needs a moment.
Had to lose a lung there.
Okay.
It's okay. I had that scratch in the back of the throat.
So yeah, we are here.
There's lots to discuss this week.
That's right. So I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Varian Grant. I am the co-owner of Last Call Comics, been so for the last 7 years, and founder of iNDIEVOLT Media LLC. I got my start making comics way back in 2008. That's right. My first book ever published was a black and white interior action comedy called Psycho Sirens. I am a father, a husband, a geek, a creator, a publisher, a reluctant taxpayer, and an artist. Shamefully not in that order. And you're watching iNDIEVOLT Live. Tonight, I'm joined by Lola. and of course, Mr. Randy Zim.
Hey, everybody. Randy Zim Zimmerman here, Zim Geek channel on YouTube. I'm alternative and independent comics publisher for many years. Arrow Comics, Weeby Comics, Massive Comics are all banners that I've printed under. I freelance with even a ton of alternative and indie publishers over the years. I've done just about every job in this business that you can imagine and did it for many years, depending upon the job. And the last 10 years, I've been doing my own comic newspaper. We've circulated around the Flint and Genesee County area called Flint Comics and Entertainment. We went through 10,000 copies of that a month, went through 100 issues, moved 1 million copies here in our local area, got very few of them back, and it reinstilled my love of comics. And I decided to get back into the regular comics market again. And start doing YouTubing and podcasting. So here we are. Married, got a cat, got 2 kids out of the house. It's all good.
How's it going, Bradley?
Bradley Golden. Hey, Ralph Griffith's in the house. Ted's in the house. Larry's in the house. Ralph's talking about Mike Lester wanting to sell Time Travelers, his comic shop that he's had for many decades. Well, longer than what I've been doing comics.
Yeah.
So that's pretty long. So can't blame him for wanting to retire.
Yeah.
So he's got that up for sale. A successful comic shop. So
yeah, he's been on MTV a couple times with that shop. I think Eminem went in there and bought some comics.
Like Ralph said, he started the Fantastic Con back in the day, long before Motor City started.
Not to be confused with Fantasticon, right?
Pardon? No.
Not to be confused with Fantasticon.
Not Fantasticon. This is the Fantastic Con. Yeah. It was a one-day show that was a lot of fun.
And now we have our guest. He's arrived. There you go. There he is. Andrea, how's it going, sir?
How are you?
Good. And I figured we'd give you an opportunity. You came in right at the exact right time, so you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about, and tell us who you are so our viewers know.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're live. So,
We're live. Yeah.
Obviously, Andrea Lorenzo Molinari. I'm an editor and writer for Caliber Comics. I also do editing for several other companies, Scout, among them Amigo Comics out of Malaga, Spain. And I've also done some work for Action Lab.
Great.
That's cool. And I met Andrea down.
Hi, Bradley.
In the first time I met him was MegaCon in Orlando. Last year? I think it was last year. Maybe.
I think so.
And I got his card, and then I bumped into him at every con. I got to get you on the show. So finally, I'm like, you know what? I wrote it down. I'm going to get him on the show. And now it's weird because his book, I remember looking him up, and I'm like, I can't find him. It is very important to put that Lorenzo in there. Because otherwise you get is a musician with the same name.
Yeah. There's also a college professor in Italian college professor who actually specializes in World War II military history. With the same name. We have a different middle name, but
that's cool.
There we go.
I did use the Best Buy points of a Grant Varian once. That was cool. I was like, oh, it's me. I'll take those points. Thank you. Let me in his account if you want to.
I've been trying to chase off that last name Zimmerman for quite a few months now. So I just tell everybody, no relation to George.
Larry says, I am Larry, a grifter, a dude, bro, a Canadian single man, 6-year noob off the comic industry, mid-tier Star Wars fan, rude, crude, and somewhat aggressive man. Not at all trusted member of the media.
Not at all. Comics
pretty much checks all the boxes, I think.
There we go.
Randy, did you want to get into our questions?
It's up to you, buddy. You're the one in the driver's seat.
All right, and then Andrea, you are welcome to join in with the questions because we talk a little bit about, we have these questions people tend to write into us so they can harass us.
Have you watched our show before, Andrea?
I have. I saw it when you had my colleague and friend Evan Pozios, the writer of Time Grunts.
Yeah.
So I was heckling him from the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So Here we go. So the first question we got is Randy, you want to read it? Go ahead.
Oh, to give Comicsgate any type of coverage is to help the disease spread. You jerks are just as culpable in the harassment that CG and War Campaign has raised on Sana, Robbie, Cena,
Yeah.
Cena, and Mags. Sean D. Thanks for writing in, Sean. We appreciate your input.
Randy, what did you do?
What?
Were you spreading
Laugh?
disease?
What?
Were you
I'm spreading disease. Let's all spread the disease.
Yeah. I think that what we do is we cover comics. I don't care what side of the fence they're from. They're good comics. I want to talk about them because I want to read them because I like good books. I think everybody on this program enjoys good books. And to just say that someone's book isn't enjoyable because they don't happen to play in the same clubhouse as you is that's upsetting to me. That's upsetting that you would, not pushing, not want to talk about someone's book. I'll be honest with you guys, and this might come across as controversial. Years ago, I must have been about 17 or 18. A friend of mine sent me a comic. He sent it a digital comic. Well, it wasn't digital. He had basically ripped the pages off the internet and sent it to me. And it was a book called The White Knight. And it was a book written and drawn by what I'm guessing is a Klansman. Okay. Oh. And it was a book. It was a comic. The comic was, the art was hit or miss. It wasn't bad art. It wasn't good art. Mm-hmm. But I read this book. I read this 32-page comic. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the messed up thing was that as from a critic standpoint, I had to take myself out of being offended and look at this book and kind of say, I mean, structurally, it was a comic book. Mm-hmm. The story, the plot went from point A to point B. I didn't agree with it, but it was a comic book. So, and I had to, when I was being asked to critique it, mm-hmm. and I gave my honest critique on it, outside of what that person believes. And I think that's how comics ought to be when we're reviewing comics. I think we need
Were you totally offended by it?
You know what's funny is that I know I'm already going to get called some names next week, maybe even now, because this is on Facebook. I don't recall being offended.
Did you go out of your way to try to cancel that person off of social media at every chance you possibly could do?
No.
Did you threaten the creator's life?
No.
Did it upset you so much that you told everybody how terrible of a person they were and told them not to follow them or any of their works in comics or social media or anywhere like that?
No, I stayed pretty. I read the book. I wrote the article or my little review of it, sent it in, and that was it.
Well, guess what? You were normal.
So I mean, I think that we like to cover books. Plus, can you guys say hi to Andrew? He was one of the first people I have interviewed on Rebel Comics. Was he?
There's a lot of people out there who do a lot of things that we all disagree with.
Yeah.
But as far as spreading somebody's disease, that's a little severe.
Yeah. Andrew, I didn't mute you, did I? Did you mute you? Okay, I was going to make sure. Okay.
You muted yourself? All right.
Yeah. And then the next question we have here is
that to keep your laughs off of the air? Now you've muted yourself. Let me unmute you.
No, I have my wife and my son with me, and I wanted them to be able to hear the show. They're just off camera here. Okay. And I want them to hear the show without, having the feedback to you guys.
Okay, understood.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And the next question here is the question, Randy, that actually I got sent Friday, and it actually is topical because of what's happened with Mr. Hicks. And I didn't think about it until I did the graphic for it this afternoon. And this is the ambitious young man who wants to make some money.
It's always good to be ambitious in this business.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched some horribly managed campaigns ran in both the pro and the anti-CG camps. I'm considering starting a service that will give members a shared campaign manager. This manager will instruct, help plan and see through to completion delivery of the product. Our Payne. Good last name there, Mr. Payne. Or whoever you are, Payne. Our Payne. I'm assuming that you're a guy, and I shouldn't be. And I apologize for that. But that's a good idea. Everything, everything's worth a try. It's just a matter of getting the people to listen. That's probably going to take a track record, our Payne. So you'll have to go out there and do a few campaigns and be able to prove yourself and your worth as an advisor.
A campaign manager would be kind of cool for some of these people.
Yeah. Rebel Comics and Gaming says, I am part of no groups, labels, or affiliations. I am a lone wolf. We'll talk to anyone who is cool to me. Yeah, that's pretty much our opinion too, Larry.
Yeah. But yeah, to have a campaign manager, I think for for a book is, some people need it. I would say learn as much from that campaign manager as you can.
Yeah.
So that they don't keep you, around as a customer for very long.
It's all gonna depend on your track record and your, the people that you manage, how their performance goes.
Yeah, I think that we just having a campaign manager, if they're skilled enough to do what they claim to do, then and obviously they're gonna want some money, so you're gonna have to cut them in on your project and how that goes. But I don't know.
It has really surprised me that there hasn't been somebody spring up a fulfillment service by now, considering all the successful crowdfunding campaigns that have been out there and all of the hassles that these campaigns have had in shipping the book out from publisher to end receiver.
Well, when you say fulfillment service, do you mean a fulfillment service that's only for comics, Randy?
Yeah.
So only for comics,
or just available. Somebody who's got enough of a space, he might be a fulfillment service for whatever widget he wants, but he might decide to specialize in comics and go out there and campaign for that kind of business. Because there's a lot of people out there that are making a lot of money, and there's also people. We're at a painful time as far as the crowdfunding part of the business goes now, where everybody's learning. The problem is there's so many campaigns out there now, it's almost impossible to learn from the previous person's mistake unless you're right on it. You really have to be on the ball. You really have to follow everybody's campaign and be able to sit there and go, oh, that person made that mistake. I won't do that. That person won't make that mistake. I won't do that. And it's very easy to get lost now in who's doing what and who made what mistake where and when. You almost have to keep your own notes.
But if you had a campaign manager to do that
for you, campaign manager, you might have that problem solved. Absolutely. But like I said, I'm really surprised there hasn't been a fulfillment service spring up that goes, just tell your printer to ship the books to us, give us your mailing list, and for X amount of dollars, we'll have those books sent out to your funders.
Andrea, would you consider something like that? Would you ever consider using a campaign manager?
I'll be really honest with you. As I'm listening to this, I'm thinking to myself, the campaigns that make the big money get the press. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that the notion that a lot of people are out there doing these Kickstarters and stuff like that and making money hand over fist is pure bullshit. I do not see that happening. There are campaigns that are successful, but I mean, I think the margins on this are a lot worse than what people think. I mean, first of all, Kickstarter's taking a chunk of flesh right off the top.
10%. Okay? Yeah.
And then you've got to, unless you have a ton of friends that are willing to do a lot of things for you for free, you can do that. But a lot of times the donation that you're getting, it's not like you're making a huge, profit, because after the time you take out the shipping and boxing, taking all this stuff and then sending it to them.
Yep.
There's the cost of the product that you're sending, whether it's books or whatever it is, the T-shirts or whatever, that you have to give. I don't know that there's this, huge kill out there. Like I said, there are people that are doing really, really well. I mean, Dirk Manning comes to mind. I think he does excellently on these. But it's not like he's a newcomer. He hasn't just arrived on the scene and then suddenly, People get this idea that these crowdfund campaigns are like, the vaults of heaven that have opened up, and now you have the rain of money coming down. I don't think it works quite that way. I've done a couple of Kickstarters myself, and the targets in both cases were $5,000. We got them. We did it. But it was white knuckle and not fun. I didn't enjoy it. I hate it. In fact, I feel very strongly about that. I would rather work an extra job and pay for it myself. I feel bad about that, admitting that in public. But, and I'm going to probably end up doing a Kickstarter sometime in 2020, early 2020. But it's a hell of a lot of work. People don't realize just how much work there is. And it's like calling in every chip that you have. And yeah.
I think a lot of people are learning that, but a lot of those campaigns are out there all at once. So in order to learn from that, it's kind of a hassle to keep on top of everybody and everything.
Yeah.
Because even the ones that are super successful, like you said, the ones that get the most publicity, still make some really bad mistakes and don't make the profit that a lot of people assume that they're making.
Yeah. Bradley Golden says, I was blessed to have 3 successful campaigns. I definitely learned a lot. Yeah, I mean, each campaign can be a learning.
And it is. Yeah. I printed 100 issues of Flint Comics, and every issue was a new problem. Mm-hmm. Something would always spring up out of the blue that you'd have to try to solve. So, yeah, I'm sure that every Kickstarter is the same way.
Well, while we're talking about Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns, I guess it's time we get into the Jeff Hicks situation. Now, Jeff Hicks, if you don't know, is the gentleman who runs World Class Bullshitters, the YouTube channel. And
should we throw that banner up?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll get it.
Yeah, thank you.
We are officially TV-14. We might say some bad words. Hang on, kids. Not meant for kids.
His name of his show was World Class Bullshitters, and a very popular YouTube channel. In fact, he's I've interacted with him on social media like once or twice.
130, 140 some thousand subscribers.
Right, and he launched a book, which was he was very disappointed with the Star Wars films as of late, and he released a book. He started as an idea, as a joke, about kidnapping Harrison Ford. Some guys kidnapped Harrison Ford, put him in their basement, and forced him to remake the Star Wars movie, which is a funny concept. I don't like the movie, so I'm going to go kidnap all the actors and make them refilm the movie in my basement. That's a funny concept. And he did a comic called Stealing Solo. Well, the comic was supposed to ship initially in February. It just went out last week.
Yeah.
And Randy, would you like to talk about how the book went out? Because you can probably do it a lot more elegantly than I can.
Oh, okay. Well, but try to tell the straight news.
Yeah.
The books went out from a company, a publisher that was used to printing pamphlets and advertising flyers and catalogs. So the back cover of the page had the mailing stamp, and the person's address was printed on the back cover. There wasn't any way of sealing the book. It's just the entire book went out just like it was a catalog with the person's address on it. So most of the time when it arrived in the mailbox, it was mangled, it was folded in half, jammed into the mailbox, when he had promised in the campaign that everything would be shipped out in mailers. So he obviously didn't realize what the publishing company or how the printing company was going to ship that out, even though they offered fulfillment service to him. And it was not the fulfillment that he was genuinely not expecting. So, and needless to say, it caused a lot of ire.
Yeah, the book.
A lot of anxiety on a lot of people's parts.
Yeah, a lot of people.
That situation still has yet to be resolved, as far as we know.
So a lot of people, when they got their $25 comic in the mail, this is how it showed up. And we'll have to watch Andrea's reaction to this. Let me see if I can pull it up. I know that I just had it. Why are my tabs? None of my tabs work correctly. Here we go.
That's how it arrived in the mail.
Yeah, that's how it arrived in the mail.
And there are copies that are a lot worse than that have shown.
Yeah,
that people have posted on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and not just that. Usually, again, I'm trying to find a graphic of it, but usually when you get a book, you expect it to be, you know, there'd be, the cover's blank, the back cover's blank, and it was left that way, I guess, so they could print the.
Do you have a shot of that shot that was posted on Instagram yesterday of
Yeah, I am trying to
the
find
person who
that.
didn't dox himself? He blacked out his name and his
Yeah.
address.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that because it was very
And
popular image.
most of the time, these books, the books that I've received from the crowdfunding campaigns, and I've only invested in a dozen or so, have all come in boxes or mailing systems that take you a good couple minutes before you can even get to the book. You're like cutting things up and peeling things back and popping this bit of cardboard here, and finally you get to the book, and the book's usually wrapped in a bag with a board on it.
Yeah, it's usually well protected. I haven't got one. I haven't got one badly done book yet.
No, I
All the
haven't
books
either.
have been done pretty well. I'm having a hard time finding that image of
In
just the
fact,
white.
Doug Tenaple's book, Bigfoot Bill, was shipped in almost like a small pizza box.
Mhm.
It was so secure that that's really a great way to ship it, and it cost him a lot of money to do it. It cost him a lot more than he was expecting.
Here we
That
go.
for a fact.
Here we go. I found it. Found one anyway. Can you guys see that?
It's coming. There we are.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the back of the book, and it was people's names were printed. Your address, your name were
Up
printed
in
on
the
the back of
upper
the book.
right-hand corner, there is the stamp from the publisher of their mailing certificate. That's their permit
Yeah.
to mail out periodicals, media mail, or what? First class, I would imagine. That all went out as. But there in the middle, where all of the black bars are, the person who posted the picture wiped out his name and his address for privacy. But that's what a typical back of that book looked like. It was a person's address. Ralph Griffith says, "Go on, take the money and run." Well, there's been a lot of cries like that too, and you really have to wonder. He says that he didn't do it on purpose, but I don't know. I don't know where I want to go from there.
Here comes.
I really don't. He
here's
doesn't.
someone
He says it wasn't a cash grab, and he should have known better. He should have seen the quality of the work before he even had the printer start printing it. But
someone who's not short for words is on his way in. Josh is coming in because I think he wants to talk about this. Because this is pretty bad. I mean, I don't. Randy, you and I dug into this a little bit yesterday.
this is a really, really important lesson for anybody who's crowdfunding or who's printing their own stuff. To one, know your printer a lot better than what apparently Mr. Hicks knew, and two, know the quality of the printer and know exactly what kind of book you're going to get from this guy before you even have them print book one. The third big thing is get a proof. You got to get a proof from the printer in order to know what was going on. This could have all been stemmed out if he had gotten a proof in the mail and had taken a look at it. And I'm not saying that he didn't get a proof. I'm not saying that he did get a proof. Just as a lesson, you always need to get that proof from the printer, especially on a big project like this. And this was a big project.
Lola brought up a good question to me the other day. She said, "Hey, now you can't sell that book.
No.
Your name's on the back of it, and if you scratch your name off of it, you've ruined the book.
Yep.
It's already ruined. I mean,
the book's already ruined. It's folded in half.
Yeah, but,
Most of them are folded in half to stick in the mailboxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Andrea, would you be asking for your money back from Mr. Hicks?
Well, I think in this situation that the responsibility lies with Hicks, and that what he needs to do is get these books reprinted and then sent out to his people. Now, the problem, of course, is that it's going to put a big dent in the money that he made off the crowdfunding. But the only ethical thing here is that you've got to replace this product, and you've got to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time ever doing this again and having people believe in what you're doing. I haven't seen the interior to know if this book is worth anything, but let's assume that the interior was, you got a decent artist,
She was artist. She was
well
artist.
edited it, well lettered, all that. You can't, obviously, I think the idea of the proof is clearly that I don't think we had a proof there.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have been happy with that.
People were pointing out that there was some problems with the. This is some of the art from the book.
There was a problem with the typesetting in a couple of panels, and
yeah, some of the text goes outside. But
again, that's all stuff that should have been caught in the proof stage.
I don't know. I mean, like, I get this in the mail. I'm like, why is my book printed like a brochure?
Catalog.
Catalog. I might have looked over that. I might have looked over, honestly, like, oh, what's this? Somebody sent me some junk mail. Hey, wait a minute. This is my book. And his campaign says that he was going to ship it in a box. It's going to be shipped protected. That did not happen. And it's like you took your eye off the ball so long.
That's putting it nicely.
Yeah, that this happened. How about you, Josh? You get back home from your lovely trip and find your book has been shipped to you like that. Your $25 comic.
Based on what I was listening to you guys talk about,
Josh, let me interrupt here for a second. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell people who you are?
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Lyman. I came in about half hour late because, hey, I'm traveling right now in Seoul, South Korea. I illustrate. I do comic books. I do mostly conventions these days, working for private clients and the like. I was working up until about 2 a.m. last night on a logo. Jumping into what you guys were talking about as far as like receiving a very, very expensive Kickstarter backing for a comic book. From what I heard, you guys said that it was directly shipped from the actual distributor.
The printer, yeah.
From the printer and distributor, not him.
No.
So it's one of those weird things where if they had told him like in an email and he has that kind of proof where it's like, hey, they said that they were going to send it in a protective case. There was going to be no bending, no nothing. Then they are responsible to go and file the claims and redistribute by their own costs. Right. However, if he misunderstood or he just heard something on the phone instead of in writing, then yeah, he's going to have to actually go in and pay for that because I'm assuming that's just a soft mailer.
Oh,
there is no mailer.
There's no mailer. The book was sent out like that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
That's the back cover.
The envelope, soft mailer. Oh, that's the back cover of the book?
That's the back cover of the book.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's extra exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing as far as that. That sounds yeah, I honestly have to say that seems like either a very large miscommunication between him and the printer, or he just was like, yeah, no, this will be great. It'll be original. It'll be my own idea. But didn't expect them to ship it literally like that. Like maybe put like a backer or something in it, like old school comic style.
Yes,
like you'll have to.
Well, some people were upset because they were getting their books. I put up a picture early. One guy said that he got his book, put it back up. He got his book bent. It came in the mail. Let's see here. Here it is. Bent all up. So
stealing solo.
Stole your money.
Yeah. But that's how the book came for certain people. So yeah, I think that Jeff has learned a very valuable lesson.
One of the tweets I read was that, I got the special jammed in the mailbox and run over by your car edition.
We have that to CGC and CGC cast.
Yeah, could you
4?
I mean, now he's got to go back now. Again, and since me and Randy are, we're nosy and we start digging into stuff, and we're like, well, how much? We know that he made. We suspect that he made quite a bit of money.
We went on the printer's website.
Yeah,
we found out what printer he was dealing with, and that printer does not specialize in books or collectors' books. They specialize in freebie pamphlets and catalogs.
Yeah,
very much like you would expect. That book, their typical item would be shipped out very much like this book was.
Interesting.
I see. Larry says, "Stealing solo, stole your money" is my video. So yeah, that's his video. So yeah, you guys, thanks, you gotta know who you're shipping through, who you're printing through, and that helps to know. But let's get on to some better news, nicer news.
New World.
Yeah. We got Andrea. Now Andrea has a book called The Shepherd, which looks really cool. If you look at the graphic for today's episode, it's the main character from the book. And Andrea actually cosplays as that character and shows. I believe, is that your staff behind you?
Yes, it is.
That's the staff he walks around. He looks quite scary at conventions.
Get some.
Yeah, and it lights up too, right?
You don't ever have to worry about reference.
Yeah,
There you go.
Worry about reference at all.
I get mistaken for Constantine all the time.
Yeah, makes sense.
What's the guy's name? Oh God, I'm trying to think what the guy.
Castiel.
Dresden?
Nah.
Castiel. Dresden.
Dresden.
So tell us a little bit about your character and the comic.
All right, so to get you in the right headspace for the Shepherd, the ancient people told many stories about heroes and heroines that lost somebody that they loved and went after that person into the afterlife. In fact, the oldest piece of Western literature is a Sumerian text called the Gilgamesh epic. And it deals with the main character Gilgamesh going into the afterlife because of the loss of his friend Enkidu. And I've always been heavily influenced by those stories. I'm fascinated by the stories. The Greeks told them, the Romans told them. And of course, the theme has passed down through, literature down through the centuries. Dante's Divine Comedy, even something like Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Mm-hmm. So that is the engine really that drives the bus for the Shepherd. The main character loses a son tragically. And after the funeral, he begins to hear the boy calling out to him from the other side. He ends up going after him into the afterlife, try to rescue him. And from there, it continues. It's an ongoing story. We have 3 volumes out right now, and number 4, we have 17 pages left in that one to do, and then that will go to press in early 2020. We've got volume 5 already written. It's just waiting in the queue. Not being independently wealthy, you can only do one at a time. So, what's sad too is that I've never had a situation where I've known more quality artists that are right there ready to work. You just got to have the resources to do it. So, but one book is all we can do at a time.
Yeah. And that I've told people before, I'd rather you put out a good quality comic than at a slower pace than just kind of cranking out just half-assed attempts. And your book, you can tell that you guys take a lot of time with it.
That means a lot to hear that.
Now you're the Shepherd. Now the first issue, is it still on Caliber?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's still on Caliber. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And then we had Evan a couple weeks ago. Was it last week or
last
before
week,
last?
I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong though.
Yeah, and Time Grunts, and you work with Evan on a few different things.
Time Grunts, actually, yeah.
Okay.
I know it well. So.
Yeah. We have a we have this is that Ducky War says boobs all out on me. The reviews. Yeah, that's one for every review. No, wait a minute.
No, on my Facebook.
On our Facebook it's 93. That's upsetting. That's upsetting. We could get you off the show now. You're not contributing.
Wow.
No, it's funny because YouTube.
Let me share a copy of a picture of the cover of the Shepherd.
Okay.
Which issue?
That's volume 1.
There it is.
Okay.
Origin story, basically.
This would be volume 1's cover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
volume
so-
1's cover.
Is that now that's the character that you cosplay as and you walk around the con. I'm glad you didn't have a dog with you. Oh God, thank you for not having the dog with you. Now the
big
main
dog.
character, what's his name?
His name is Professor Lawrence Miller.
Mm-hmm.
Larry.
And the dog, is that Cerebus or is that
He's like a wolf wraith that he meets in the afterlife,
yeah?
and kind of attaches himself to Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller's not too happy about it, but he doesn't really have much of a choice because it won't stop following him.
Mm-hmm. How did you because what's the genesis of the story? How did you create it? How did you think of this concept?
Well, the genesis of the shepherd is actually it was a nightmare that I had. Believe it or not, it's kind of a once in a lifetime situation. I don't typically remember my dreams. Maybe a couple seconds after I wake up and then they're gone through my fingers like sand. And I had this terrible nightmare. The basic idea behind it is I dreamed that my oldest son died of a drug overdose. And I was devastated. We've always been extremely close, and he's now my co-writer. We've always been very close, and losing him in the dream. What was weird about the dream was that it was like being strapped into a roller coaster that you didn't want to be on. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't just the dream that I heard that my son died. I dreamed that I went to the morgue and identified his body, and then stood over his grave, and then had to deal with people as they were coming to pay final respects at the funeral, and all of it was just like this grinding, horrible thing. Right. And dreaming about the not being able to cope with his loss afterwards, and then dreaming that I'm hearing him calling out from the other side for help. He's in trouble, and basically I woke up in this cold sweat and shaking, and my wife was right there, and she's like, what's going on? What's wrong? And I said, I don't think you want to know. And she was like, well, now I do. And so I told her, her whole reaction was like, I hate you. Why would you tell me this? I'm like, because you told me to, you couldn't win. And
that is a losing battle.
Oh yeah. It took me 2 days before I was able to get up enough courage to be able to talk to my son about it, because it really felt like a portent. It really felt like something, I was being warned or something, Mm-hmm. And when I did finally tell my son Roberto about it, his whole reaction was like, Dad, that's so cool. And I'm like, no, it's really actually not cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the very definition of not cool. And, he really said, we've got to do something with this. And the reason why it's a graphic novel today, I want to be very clear. It's all about him. It's all because he just wouldn't let it go. He did, he was determined that we needed to do something about it. It needs to be a story, and really kind of envisioned it as some kind of a novel of some sort of graphic novel from the very beginning, and just, didn't quit.
That's cool. That's cool. And
kind of the origin.
Did you, well, I mean, you go to a lot of cons. I think if it's a bigger con, I normally see you there. Now the first printing, what year was that?
May 15.
May 15. Okay.
Or right. May 15. May 15 that we came out with that.
Yeah, you're up to issue. So you're.
We have a total of 3 volumes or 11 issues.
Okay.
It's about 300 pages worth of story, a little bit more than that.
And the cool thing is, you created that from a dream. You didn't create it like I do. Like, I gotta get the Netflix money.
No, that's literally the way it happened. And I've never had anything like that before or since. It's not my preferred writing method of, waiting to have a nightmare and then, writing it down. That's not how it works for me at all. In fact, it was nice in volume 2 and 3 to not have it be related to anything horrible, so yeah.
Because I mean, with me, when a couple of my dreams have made their way into some of the comics that I've planned and some of the comics I've done, but that would be to have that dream. That would be that'd be really scary. I don't think I'd probably be less likely to write about it, just because I was too free.
Yeah, I didn't want to. About it. I honestly didn't want to. It was really because of Roberto really pushing me to do it.
Now, you didn't did you crowdfund that?
I'm sorry?
You didn't crowdfund that, right?
No.
First one out. So yeah, you put your I want to find somebody who crowdfunds so I can ask them if they're going to print. They're going to ship their books directly to their customers right off the printer. They're going to do it the Hicks way.
Well, I mean, if you want to play that, Frank Cho did the same thing with his distributor.
Did he?
They imported it into the U.S., and it was their requirement to actually ship it directly to the customer. You know, it came in a box that had all the stuff that was in my, my pledge, and it had like a bubbler on the top, but it was a very efficient packaging.
Yeah.
So it's like, devil's advocate, you can go both ways. But jumping back to Shepherd. So my question for Andrea is I was noticing that you, as you progress through the story, you've also used different styles of artists. And now, do you find that as your personal choice after reading more about the genre of the supernatural and spiritual, jumping from like the Michael Turner-esque, not Michael Turner, I'm sorry, I'm not even remotely awake yet, not enough caffeine. Hellboy, help me out here, guys. Mignola, thank you, Mike.
What
Mignola.
time is it there?
It's actually pretty late. It's just I didn't sleep well. I was dealing with this logo last night, so dreams of logo destroy.
Nightmares.
I'm like, why is it not working? Yeah, speaking of nightmares, but no, jumping back to it so with the Mike Mignola style versus the softer tones with like the green overlays versus the golds. I've taken a few minutes here and started Googling and searching through. It's one of the things I like doing while I'm
here. Well, the
doing
first volume, of
talks.
course, has one artist. That's Ryan Showers, and
he did all the colors and the drawing. I'm assuming
the colorist there is Heather Breckel. She was the experienced one of our group, and you may know that name. She's got quite a resume. She does a lot of work.
Funny enough, Heather actually did two of my first pieces as far as coloring is concerned, and it was like right after that they saw that she got the Ninja Turtles gig and the My Little Pony gig.
Well, that's really cool. She did a great job for us.
Kevin Bacon.
Ohio. In a lot of ways, that colors in that story is almost like another character. And I really think it adds a lot to it. Now, moving forward in volume 2 and volume 3, the change in artists was absolutely intentional. And what our goal was, volumes 2 and 3, the Path of Souls and the Path of Dogs are actually part 1 and part 2 of a bigger story arc. It's about a 183-page graphic novel, both volumes together. And anyway, that's the cover right there for the Path of Souls. But basically what the plot of this story, these 2 volumes, is that we are traveling now in the afterlife. We're starting to explore the afterlife, which we call the seam. You can think of it as purgatory. It's that middle ground between this life and whatever is going to come next. And the first place that we come upon is a hospital for the souls of soldiers that are suffering from post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, I was looking at the part. Like
it has different soldiers from different time periods and cultures that are represented. And what we wanted to do is we envision, if you can imagine this, envision all these stories happening on top of each other simultaneously. So imagine a stack of pancakes that exist in one pancake. Okay. So
I was actually going to ask whether or not the character was like immortal or something, because I was looking at it and I was like, wow, there's a lot of different outfits and genres and everything in this.
The way it works is that each soul sees the afterlife the way they want to see it or need to see it. And in this particular hospital, when the U.S. Marine character looks out into the afterlife, he sees everybody as Marines, even though they're not. And they impose the soul imposes its reality or what it needs to see on everybody else. And the stronger the soul is, the more it does that in terms of its like grief, its pathos that it's going through. And so the way we thought best to try to describe this is have each soldier have its own artist. And so you knew whose story is being told based on the artwork that you're seeing. And we thought that would also add this sense of the malleability of the afterlife, of its how it shifts. And like the first image that we use in telling the story, the Path of Souls, Path of Dogs, is we talk about the afterlife as a kaleidoscope, and that the images shift and morph and change. And that's what this reality that we encounter is. And so the character, the shepherd, actually wears different uniforms depending on which soul he's working with. He wears a Marine outfit. He also wears a Napoleonic, the garb of a lieutenant in the Napoleonic army. He also wears the garb of 17th century French soldier.
And the cool thing about that the shepherd angle is that he's a shepherd. He's shepherding souls almost. And I mean, you mentioned, and I want to touch on two things real quick. One, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the PTSD.
Yes.
And your wife, is it your wife specializes in therapy for that?
She does. My wife is actually sitting right next to me here. I got her, in case for the interview. My wife works for the VA and specializes in post-traumatic stress therapy.
Mm-hmm.
She also does military sexual trauma and traumatic brain injury, which, in case you're not familiar with traumatic brain injury, we're actually learning a lot. How with the NFL, with the concussions and the awareness of that, a lot of awareness is being raised simultaneously with the military, because our soldiers and Marines and airmen and naval veterans and the active duty people are being exposed to high velocity, like the guns on the tanks and the IEDs and the grenades and the mortar rounds and stuff like that. And they're suffering basically the equivalent of concussions. I mean, she would speak to this with greater, and will hopefully speak to this with greater intelligence than me, but she's actually started a foundation. It's called Warrior Mission at Ease, which offers free weekend therapeutic retreats for the veterans. Everything is completely paid for by donors.
Mm-hmm.
Cost the veteran nothing. They're flown in. It's outside of Tampa and Odessa, Florida. So she's extremely active. In fact, she just told me today that FAU has asked her to teach a course in this very thing. So,
I went to a military school, and a lot of the teachers were.
I'm having her
were
the reverb.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's freezing up a little.
No,
I just call it the variant verb. It works.
Hello.
Hello from the better halves.
So this is my wife, Myrna. I'm going to slide over.
Hello, Miss Myrna.
So they're saying hello. So
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there.
So I was mentioning that I went to a military school, and we were taught by vets. And I remember one of the gentlemen, he had an incident where there's a store here called Harry Surplus, where you can go get military stuff. You can go get police jackets if you want, but if you lost something, you need to hurry up and get to Harry's, because you were going to get in trouble when you get back to school the next day without that hat or without whatever it is you need to go. And some brainiac at some point decided it'd be fun to buy a mock-up grenade, and he tossed it to the front of the room on Captain Cruz, and Captain Cruz freaked out on us, and it was scary. My father was in Vietnam just for a little while. He didn't have any trauma or anything that we knew about, but to see Captain Cruz freak out like that, and it was scary. And it's the first time that once the initial fear was over for us, you instantly start feeling bad, and oh my God, that man is troubled. And so yeah, I'm happy that you work with soldiers, and even your book takes the PTSD situation seriously, because there are people make jokes about it, but I'm surprised that Lola's grandfather likes being around fireworks at the 4th of July, but there are soldiers who can't be around fireworks. They don't want to be.
Right.
It's very scary for them. So how is it? Do you ever have to check him about when he's doing a book? Like, nope, that's not accurate. That's not how they would react. Or
Actually, I do read through his book and give him some suggestions for things for accuracy's sake, because you don't want to misrepresent what the experience is, and everybody's experience is slightly different, so it's not like it's one size fits all, but there are definite generalities that you can look at. And so I do look at the authenticity of what he's writing to make sure that it's good representation.
I once wrote in my story something about the Catholic Church, and somebody didn't let me Yeah. Lola didn't let me. She's like, you're not gonna write that about the Catholic Church. It's incorrect. It's not right. And if I say anything about Italy that's incorrect, she rides me. So, yeah,
That's
know
why you have editors.
As well she should. Yes.
Yeah. Randy was my editor. Oh, no, I was kidding.
No.
He's like,
take any-
this bus,
no.
I'm not going under it. This is not happening. This is not happening.
Andrea, you were Caliber. Did you meet Gary Reed?
It's kind of a sad story. I came in. He died in October 16, and I came in. I signed my contract. I think it was January 1st, 2015. So I had interacted with him in December of 14 was when I first started interacting with him. And then we wrote all the time. We wrote back and forth. I learned a ton from Gary. Absolutely loved him. And I was actually going to meet him for the first time at the Grand Rapids, Michigan Comic-Con in October of 16, which would have been like 2 weeks after he passed.
Yeah.
And I was devastated because, I got there and it was like I'd come to the Grand Rapids Comic-Con because Gary had recommended it. And to get there and then to realize that I was not only was I not going to see him there, but I was never going to see him. Yeah. And it really, like I said, I feel like I learned so much from him in just the short period of time, and he wrote, the entire relationship was based on email, so I have to say I never did get a chance to meet him, but I've read a ton of his work. And one of the things I have to say as a writer about him is that I think he's a very good writer. But what's impressive about his writing is that he's good in multiple genres, which is not easy to do. And that I find very impressive because, mastering a genre is not an easy thing. And he was able to do, historical, he was able to do horror. There was a variety of different, the detective stuff. He really had quite a variety of things that he was able to produce. And ironically, my favorite book of his has nothing to do with zombies or detective or any of that. It's actually called, if I remember, it's the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow. I think I have a copy of it around here somewhere. But it's basically like, imagine it's Zorro. We're in the American Revolution.
Oh, it's Dr. Sin, the Scarecrow of Romney Marsh. Is that what it is?
I can't remember if that's the title of it, but it's something like the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And but it's this character that, like a Zorro character, but set in the American Revolution. Is very well done.
Yeah.
Randy, the last time, because I was at Monroe Comic-Con and I talked to Gary, and then the next day, was it even the next day when I found out? I think it must have been the next day.
I think he passed Sunday night.
Yeah, Sunday night
after the show. Yeah.
But Randy, was it you emailed with him, or was it that he called you?
He sent me an email that Sunday, after the show. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of chilling when you get that. But he's the thing is he still missed. Like all these, it's years later and you still miss them. But and Andrea, so you got Caliber, Scout, and you said the other one, which I can't pronounce.
It's Amigo Comics out of Malaga, Spain.
Okay, Amigo I can pronounce. That country now.
But it's the publisher there is Juan Torres, and Juan is known for a number of things, but Nancy in Hell, if you're familiar with that book, it was published by Image. He's since moved that title to Amigo. He is an amazing writer, real talent, and a genuinely good human being. I really like working with him. Cool. And one of the guys that I met through Caliber, Massimo Rossi, who is a prolific writer with a lot of different publishers. He has three books through Caliber: Wrath of God, Dark Frontier, which in my opinion is his masterpiece. And then he also has written Morning Star, which is Caliber's BPRD, basically. He actually writes for Amigo, and he's the one that got me to come there and do editing for them. So,
I wonder if I got to get a book on Caliber. Randy's got one. How many do you have, Randy? More than one?
For what? From Caliber?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, let's not get started. I did. I lettered a lot of Gary's stuff right at the start from Caliber. And I did a lot of odd jobs, little inking there, little writing here. Did a couple of issues of the Realm. Did the Book of the Dead, inked and lettered, I believe. There's all sorts of stuff. I was with Gary right when he first started Caliber with Calibrations. So I've had a couple stories printed there, and in and out. And the biggest thing that I did through Caliber was the War of the Worlds book.
I wonder if
I'm familiar with that book. I read it. I sell it on my table. It's a damn fine book.
Thank you very much.
It's a disturbing book too. So congratulations.
It's meant to be. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it really. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of reading this, imagine it's like survival horror. Okay, yeah. So think Walking Dead, but aliens. And it imagines, and correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, it really imagines America, or the human race really pushed to the brink of extinction.
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally defending places like Nebraska. Like, in my opinion, if we're defending Nebraska,
no one wants Nebraska.
The story takes place in a small town in Kansas named Haven that I didn't know really existed. I thought I was making it up, but there's actually a Haven out there.
Wow.
So right in the middle of nowhere, right where I thought, right where I imagined it was. Really scary when that happens. That's a really weird kismet at work. But
I'm kicking myself for not getting out in South Dakota and taking a picture next to the sign that said Wakanda. Like, I found it. Wakanda is right here.
Wow.
There are no black people.
Wow. Wow. Well, if I might jump in for a quick question. So with the wonderful Shepherd crew here, with Andrea and the missus, you'll forgive me, I forgot your first name. So speaking from an art perspective, do you find that as a professional that has to deal with therapy for people with their conditions, from PTSD to trauma from other forms, that certain colors actually affect like the environment that you're in? For example, like they like one room because the art that's hanging there is more simple versus more detailed. Do you find that reflects as well when you're working with the books? Do you guys find that together, between, your livelihood as a married couple, but also as professionals in your separate industry? It's a little bit more of a deeper question than we normally get on here, but it's just something I've been thinking about recently. Or like, hey, when you deal with, with traumas, or you're dealing with, hey, I have to create a world. Like, what gives you calm? What art speaks to you? What are these things that to your clientele or your audience? I guess is the best way to put it.
That's a great question. I mean, how does art factor in for you with the therapy and such?
Well, you're using two different art languages. Number one, I
That's true. That's true.
Accelerated resolution therapy.
Yes, I apologize.
But no, that's okay. But in trauma, like, color really does make a difference, but that's such a wide spectrum, because everything that you experience in that trauma memory, every sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, color is coded into that trauma memory. So, for everybody, something could trigger them very differently. I mean, it could be the color red for one person that sets off that, that alarm in the brain.
The smell of cinnamon, it might be,
Right. Yeah. So any of that. And as far as art, like, I mean, in my office at work, I'm an avid diver. So my entire office is undersea. So that might
the silence and the blues and the shades.
Desensitization for that for someone else, but for me, I find it comforting and soothing, because that environment for me is very calming. So when I look at his art, absolutely, it's going to raise some of that stress and tension in somebody's body if they have not adequately addressed their trauma, because they're looking at stuff that is similar to maybe what they've experienced, especially like his combat scenes.
Like the weapons and the gunfire,
in Fallujah, kicking in the doors. I've heard that a lot. So, that's really going to play into those triggers for some people if they haven't. Now, if they've already gone through a therapy like accelerated resolution therapy, they tell their story, they'll have their word story, but the imagery and the all the sensation has already been processed out. So it really does, it's like taking the R-rated movie for violence and having them be the director of their own movie and cutting out all the parts that bother and disturb them and putting it back in a G-rated format. So in future, when they're telling their R-rated story, they're seeing a G-rated movie in their mind, and the alarm has been turned off in the brain, and so they're not triggering to any of it anymore.
Now, if I may interject for just a brief moment, with that, do you find that they will substitute? Like they'll substitute, like if it's red that triggers them, their brain will do everything they can to find everything that's not red in the room or not red in the book. Do you find that there's any kind of substitutions?
They absolutely do substitute, but they also substitute meaning. So
Correct.
you can take something that's red that is alarming to them and substitute that out for a memory that included red that was heartwarming for them. And that's what they switch that violent look for something that's comforting and soothing. So you don't want them to avoid the color red. You want them to find a substitution or a memory.
Something that makes it good or better.
Right. Yeah. So you're flipping it for them.
That's awesome. We got to get Andrew's turn too, but go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to ask him. How does that play into his?
Yeah. Beat me to it.
I mean, I think that we talked about Heather in the first volume. Her colors really set mood, and in fact, she even told me that as she was coloring the pages, she relied on the color green for when Lawrence is losing it, when he's sick mentally, because he admits in retrospect, as he's narrating the story, he admits I wasn't in my right mind, because some of his actions are not the actions of somebody who's sane. He does things that are, he recognizes in retrospect were not, recommended behavior, but he uses that color to kind of signal that. And one of the things that we deliberately did, like in the first part of Path of Souls, it's very colorful, those first few pages. And then it starts to get dark as they transition into this hospital area. But we deliberately were thinking of, like, when I imagine them walking in the afterlife, because remember, the soul kind of creates its own afterlife experience. Right. I was very moved by the movie What Dreams May Come. If you ever saw it with Robin Williams. It's an amazing, if you haven't seen this, you owe it to yourself to see this movie. In my opinion, it's the best movie ever made. But it's definitely after this. It's in the afterlife. It deals with the afterlife. And one of the cool scenes there is that his wife had painted this painting of this house that they plan to retire to, which they never get the chance to retire to. And when when he's in the afterlife, he wakes up in the afterlife in that painting. And when he walks, he's actually sinking into the painting,
to the oils and the paint,
the oils and the colors, and it's mixing. And so when I talked to my artist for those pages, I said, I want you to watch that section of the movie. Recommend watch all the movie, but particularly focus on that section and try to recapture some of that sense of color and freedom and peacefulness in those pages. So I mean, we're definitely thinking about things like that.
Because I was looking at the some of the more recent covers and things, and like there's less aggressive yellows, it's softer tones. It's kind of reminiscent of like Dragon Breather from back in the day, or Fire Breather. I think it was Dragon Breather.
Yeah, I think it's Fire Breather is the one. Was that Phil Hesser that did that?
It's the one that became a Cartoon Network show as well.
I actually it's on my shelf. So.
Hey, see, they're helping me out here. But I was looking through, and I'm just going through here and looking at the colors, and it's like the aggressiveness of some of the harder yellows and things suddenly get more muted and toned down. And sometimes that's affected by the colorist, sometimes it's affected by the editor or the writer or whoever is creating the book. So it's always nice to get that perspective. I knew Heather back when we used to do this thing online called Enter Void. It was basically a world where everybody could create their own original characters and write comic books where they fought each other. And some of the people now, these guys are like working for Warner Brothers, and some are working for Capcom and just everything else. But it's just like watching the evolving of her color choices as well. From back then, she primarily used heavy reds and dark pink tones, and like had this whole world of conspiracy. And just watching that color evolve as well is just one of those things that I've been trying to focus on more lately, where I'm like, okay, so what inspires you to choose these colors? What inspires you to go with this character tone? Why does the character when it's done in character design, have no feet. Little things like that, because it's supposed to be ethereal. It's supposed to be mythical. It's not just a wearer character. Little things like that.
Well, if character has no feet, it's because Liefeld can't draw them. Oh,
well, in this case, I'm referring to the Hellwolf from the model sheet. It had no feet, and I'm not saying that to make fun of it. It was just one of those, sometimes conveying an idea, it takes a moment to explain it. So I appreciate you both answering that. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, sometimes we have those, like, in our own space, we have these calming colors and tones. Like, Andrea, of course, this is, I'm assuming, your studio area, so you got a nice balance between the reds and the greens and the blues of the, the Inspire art behind you. Little things like that. I try to focus on the whole picture. And so it's like, when you come home, those colors, what colors stay in your environment, and which ones conflict with that. So just random curiosity, and I appreciate you guys answering that.
I like a nice warm yellow myself.
I don't see any yellow. I see white.
No, no.
I see a lot of black and white.
Yeah, I got a light on me that's like this, like
thickly yellow. You got those Detroit lights.
Yeah. Those lights,
effective lights that make you go, I need to leave Detroit.
Andrew, where are you from?
I'm actually from Michigan. I'm from Flint, Michigan, originally.
Okay.
And he left.
Really?
Shepard is from Detroit.
Okay.
So the character actually, when he's alive, that's where his family is. I envisioned him teaching for the University of Detroit, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Michigan fan. I'm Michigan State. Tigers, Red Wings, and Lions.
Put the other Michigan teams in there.
Yeah, the Lions are friggin' killing me. This is bad. This is, I won't say it's as bad as the winless season, but it feels pretty crappy.
Well, where are you at now?
I'm sorry?
Where are you at now?
I'm in West Palm Beach, Florida, which, by the way, I'd like to point out, is a hell of a lot better weather.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's look at the weather today, shall we?
When I
was a balmy 50 degrees here in Korea.
To the Grand Rapids Con there, and they were talking about snow coming, and I'm thinking, man,
I'm out.
I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. It was like I packed that baby up and I was out the door.
Came home with bronchitis and the flu. I had to treat him with oils until he got better.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
But I'll tell you what, that first night I made sure I was south of Indianapolis, and then Evan told me that he literally got home back to Mount Clemens. And I guess a half an hour later, they dropped 8 inches of snow on them, and I was like, because I don't have snow tires, obviously. Why would I have them down here in Florida?
I flew into Detroit for something. We were going to do 3 or 4 shows, but it was in April, and I landed, and it started snowing.
I remember that.
I officially made a stink for the rest of the week. I was like, this is unacceptable. This is April. I was showing weather from every other part of the country, and I was like, this is not right.
Andrea, Randy's in Flint. Well, he's not. You're not actually in Flint, but Randy has several ties to the city of Flint. He does the Flint Comics Con.
He's Flint adjacent.
Yeah,
Flint adjacent. There you go. I'm in Burton, about 2 miles south of Flint.
Yeah, sure. I'm well aware of that. Yeah, I went to, I did 3 years, the first 3 years of high school at Luke M. Powers High School.
Okay.
I actually ended up graduating. My mother lives out in Millington, Michigan, which is out, near Vassar, still Frankenmuth. Should I get the right ballpark? But
nope, won't go. There are certain places like Michigan I just can't go.
We still haven't gotten Varian up to Frankenmuth yet.
There you go.
That used to be a goal. He just does not want to go.
Place to go there. The rest.
Yeah,
I will say this lovingly. Texas and Detroit have very similar things in the sense of distance between different parts of the area. You'd be like, oh, you just drive this much time, but for some reason, everything in Detroit is half an hour away, in Michigan area. It'd be like, it's 2 miles down the road. It's about half an hour. Yeah. It's 20 miles down the road. It's about half hour, 35 minutes. And you're just like, okay. Does the Shepherd deal with reincarnation? Yeah. I don't think he does, based on what I've seen. But.
Yeah, the answer to that would be no. I'm not against the idea. I'm very, that's one of the concepts of the afterlife that's, I think the first time I encountered it in the ancient literature is in Plato's Republic, Book 10. It's called The Myth of Air. which I recommend if you're interested in these afterlife. The basic concept, just in case you haven't heard of this, Air is a soldier. He's killed on the battlefield. 3 days later, they're gathering the bodies to burn them on funeral pyres, because in the ancient Greek culture, you got to be buried. Otherwise, you can't cross the river Styx. So it's really, really important to take care of these bodies properly. So they're just about to set the bodies on fire, and Air wakes up, and he begins to relate his story of what he saw in the afterlife. And they envision in part of that this idea of reincarnation, that basically after each soul, like you're rewarded for what you do good or you're punished for what you do bad. But then when there's a limit to your reward, a limit to your punishment, and then you get they're like, think of them as like domino chips, and each of them has like a basic description of what that life is. And when you pick it up, that becomes the life that you're going to get. And, and then you transition into your next life with the idea of reincarnation. So I'm certainly aware of it. We could certainly play with that, but I think of the best way to describe what we're doing is, imagine Dante's Divine Comedy. There are 3 parts. Most people always think of the Inferno, which gets the most credit. But there's the Inferno, the Purgatorio, and the Paradiso. And basically, the shepherd deals with the Purgatorio. We're in that middle ground. We're dealing with souls that are in need of restoration, healing. Basically, we deal with souls. I've always been fascinated with ghost stories that have a reason for the ghost to be hanging around. They're not just there to scare you, but like the
restless.
That kind of thing. I've always been fascinated by that.
And it's one of those things too. Your story, and I'm looking at the art from it. You can buy would you say someone can buy trade and get like a self-contained story, at least a self-contained arc in that story?
And for which,
as far as the volumes are, like if I picked up volume 1.
Volume 1 is the origin story. The story's complete in and of itself.
Okay.
Volumes 2 and 3 are part 1 and part 2 of a larger story arc.
Okay.
And originally I planned to publish it as 1 volume, but my publisher had suggested that we do it as 2 volumes because we wanted to make sure we could price it. I'm still not sure if it was the right call. Was it? I don't know. What time
you can never go.
If you do them separately, then you can create the omnibus where they're together as a Kickstarter or a crowdfund.
Actually, what
additional income for the avid collector.
Yeah, that's the plan. So.
Remember, the publisher's perfect. The publisher.
You got to sell the sizzle, not the steak.
What is it? I was trying to find the video. I know I seen the video earlier. I was gonna put the video up for viewers, but I can't find it now. But it's. Do you have any floppy issues of that, like issue 1 or?
I do have floppy issues from volume 2 and 3, and I've thought about doing floppies of the first issue of volume 1. That's what I've done, is basically the first issue in each volume. But what's funny, because I really haven't had a major call for the floppies. When I have them available, I haven't really sold them in great quantity. People are more interested in getting the whole story, together as a trade.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Though I asked that for a reason. I'll talk to you about it off the air. But yeah, there's the story sounds amazing, and I'm kind of mad now. I've never picked the book up, but I need to do that now. Yeah. I'm gonna end up. Oh yeah, Larry's on his real name now. There you go, Mr. Larry Patrick Higgins.
Larry, you're here.
Yeah.
Larry Patrick Higgins in the house saying hello.
Oh, the private chat.
iNDIEVOlt radio listeners.
Yeah.
Some things Volt knows I am here. See, it counts because I was being the letter of the law.
Now, since you have you given out, or if anybody, like any vets, have picked up your book, and if they approached you about it?
Actually, yeah, I have. I've had several that have approached. In fact, when I was down in SuperCon, we ended up having a veteran that came and talked to me about it. I had a medic, a U.S. Army medic, who served and saw a lot of stuff over in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he comes around when I see him in the Florida con circuit. he's got his dog, his service dog with him, and I always am happy to see. In fact, I've got pictures with him, with the staff, and his dog being Legio, the wolf raid.
Yeah.
The things that he does is he gives away the electronic copy at my retreat program. So the veterans that come there, we always give them that capability so that they can read it for free. We try to keep all costs like nothing for them when they're there. Yeah. And I've had feedback from those who've attended and have followed the story. And I actually encourage them more than anything, the Path of Souls and the Path of Dogs, because it really deals with post-traumatic growth. So it's not just dealing with trauma. Like if you look at some of the other major comic books, if you look at Batman, if you look at The Punisher, if you look at even Wolverine, you'll see those flashback scenes to trauma that they've incurred and what drives them even as superheroes. And for me, I'm much more interested in the healing process. I want to get mine past that so that they're able to build a life, connect with themselves, connect with their families, connect with their communities, and go on to do the most good for themselves and others. And that book for me, what he wrote, really focuses on that healing path. So it's not just, hey, here's these terrible things that they were exposed to in war and what happened to them and how they lost themselves, they lost their families, they lost, things, but really how they ultimately were able to find themselves again. So I highly recommend it for that purpose.
That's a fantastic mission. I got to get that book now. I just got to. I just got to. Now, did you say your son was there? Is that the son that wrote the book with you?
Yeah, he stepped out of the room, but yeah.
Okay.
I get him. I'd like to meet him.
Full family.
Yeah.
Meet the creative team.
Yeah, let's
change places. No, we have to have all three.
Yeah,
and we'll screenshot it, and that can be the new postcard for a holiday.
Daryl actually wrote one of the parts. It's the first issue of Volume 3, The Path of Dogs. It's a story. It's takes place in the Battle of Fredericksburg in 1862. Roberto, it's my son Roberto and my co-writer.
Bonsoir. Welcome to
I'm gonna be
welcome
honest,
to the forum.
Got taken by surprise by that, but
Now you helped him write the book. Now, by the way, Andrew, have you given them all credit?
Ooh, dun. I would hope so.
Oh yeah, Roberto and I are co-owners of the Shepherd, co-creators, co-writers of the Shepherd. His name is all over the books. And Myrna actually has an essay in the Path of Dogs that outlines, what explains what post-traumatic stress is and outlines the treatments that are currently available at the cutting edge, and then provides a list of free resources for veterans and their families.
Oh,
cool.
That's
great. That's in Volume 3.
You're very gracious because I haven't given Lola any credit for any of this.
No, I give my wife credit. Sleep next to her, you see. And if something were to happen to me, we all know what happened. But I mean, she really has, of course, extremely supportive, and then, this idea that Berto and I had for the hospitals for souls, it really came out of listening to her talk about the work that she does at the VA. And so basically imagine a VA in the aftermath.
Yeah.
So
now when your dad told you about his dream, you thought it was cool rather than saying you didn't know I was dead.
It didn't really faze me very much. I guess you guys probably already covered it, but I'd never had any interest in drugs. So the idea that I was going to die of a drug overdose was just kind of so far out there that it's just whatever.
Yeah.
So what would you say appeals to you about the Shepherd character? Is it the helping other people, or is it the transition, or is it dealing with those different issues for the different soldiers or the different people? What would you say as far as the co-writing side? What's your favorite thing?
I think that there's a lot that we, can do and like have to offer with these characters. There's so much that we can do with them. Like there's so many different options, so many different kinds of stories that we can tell in the setting that we've got. So whatever message, like the general message of the Shepherd is always kind of going to be, the restoration that it's a healing process. Like whatever book we're in, whether it's the, the first one or the second or the ones that we've already got planned or written, it's all about kind of like the long-term healing process. But the individual stories that we tell are not going to, like they'll have like different ideas at the forefront. So like, for example, one of them that we have in the works called The Tether. I don't know if you guys went over it, but The Tether is, basically a finished script at this point. It's got a little bit more work that needs doing on it. But that one is that's a romance. And that's, it's different from either of the things that we've done before. And then we're talking about, I'm like totally blanking on the Valentine. Yeah, the Valentine is a little closer to what we did in Apocatastasis, where it's, more kind of like almost like a revenge ghost story. Like there's more to it than that. And it's, more family. Again, it's family centric, which is, kind of a theme that we do. And then one that I'm really excited about that Dad has been doing the research for is basically The Burning Maid. And that one's going to be dealing with like Joan of Arc and the events kind of surrounding her death and what she kind of turned into after that. That's going to be like, that one there. We haven't even started writing anything with that one yet, but I'm really excited about what the possibilities are, especially just because the setting of like, dealing with, kind of like medieval France, like I'm kind of into that. So.
Cool.
Basically, what we love about the Shepherd is because it takes place in the afterlife. Any person who's ever lived in any culture is fair game.
Yeah, so, you can cross timelines and everything. The character's not eternal; he's just there, ethereal.
Ted Davies, he mentioned did it have anything to do with reincarnation? His book does have a little bit. Well, it actually heavily relies on reincarnation. His book Retrieve, which full disclosure, I published. Plug. It's but it does deal with reincarnation and that question of what happens to the human soul once we pass on. In his book, they come back and they figure out a way to, get that soul. But I
will say this for just a brief second though, because I don't think we really touched on it. Like Andrea, you were talking about how like people mistake you for other characters, be it Dresden or even Constantine or whatever. In fact, I think I might have mistaken you when we first met from behind the booths for Dresden, and then you and I had a conversation about your character. I do playing card art. I normally wear a purple jacket, but anyways, I digress. Because I could have sworn I've had a conversation with you about this kind of stuff. But with character design, I really like how you do try to focus with the lantern being like, hey, this is the guiding. It's not just the shepherd's crook. It's got the Charon, lantern as well. So it's like, hey, you're guiding back and forth. You're playing with the sticks and the Orpheus and, all that other fun stuff as far as the Greek, but, further back as well as you mentioned earlier in the podcast. So I applaud you for that. And I personally, I look forward to seeing how you guys choose to introduce Joan of Arc, because there's so many different variations of the armor, considering like, hey, what was popular back then versus like the European overtones from the English whenever they do a reinterpretation from film. So I'm getting curious alone to see how that's going to look. So, but anyways, Varian, all you.
I just want to know when the shepherd's going to go help King Zombie is all I'm wondering.
We're actually starting to do some of this crossover stuff, which is, I think Randy will tell you, this is not new in Caliber. They've done crossovers with their titles before, but one of the books that we came out with this summer was Infinity: A Tale of the Inferno, which is really good. If you have not seen this book, you really should check this book out. It is the basic idea is you have a serial killer that has managed to get a mystical glyph, like the infinity symbol, carved into his wrist, and it gives basically a get out of jail free card regarding hell. But when he's about to be caught, he basically offs himself and goes down to hell. But this glyph gets him out of he goes down through the 9 circles of hell and ends up back in the world again. And so your reincarnation, basically. And he's chased by this detective, John Dante. Virgil.
Is it Jean with the EAN?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very, very good.
It is. Oh, my goodness. That'd be great.
They're doing a second novel of this called The Purgatorio. And the Shepherd actually is going to make the Shepherd and Legio actually make a cameo in that. So I'm really excited to see that.
That's cool.
Well, while I have you guys both here, I also have one more question. Because you mentioned you're doing kind of or rather, Andrea had mentioned that you guys are kind of doing like a pancake effect where you have your stories that are going on simultaneously and you have your different storylines with different arts. Now, do you find that one of you is working primarily on the Path of Light versus the Path of Dogs, or is it fully joint no matter what on both? Or
so there's like I would say that it's kind of like one of us does the primary part of like a story, and then there's like constantly passing it back and forth. So like the one that I focused on the most was Brannigan. Like that one was the one that I spent the most time on. Dad spent the most time on the other ones, and then a lot of the editing process is us going back and forth a lot of like, hey, do you think this works? What do we want them to say here? Things like that. And then if there's ever any kind of like friction where things don't quite meet, then we kind of like talk it out and, kind of decide like, okay, what can we do to fix this? What can we do to make it better? And like the editing process takes, I think in every single case, it's taken longer than the actual script.
Absolutely.
Like because you just go over it like so many times. It's like, if you ever really try to really thoroughly rake leaves off of a lawn, like
there's always going to be one or two left.
Like you can always get like a bunch in your first and second pass. And then after that, you're still getting leaves, but you're only getting like, a little bit at a time. And that's basically the editing process in a nutshell.
Yeah. That's good. No, I appreciate you guys jumping in on that.
Randy,
you've been oddly quiet.
Randy hears?
I'm still there.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to put up something here real quick.
Quietly learning. That's all.
We have let's see here. I was
secretly learning more about me.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I recently got a new monitor, so I'm all fancy.
Fancy.
Yeah,
he can look at Twitter on his small monitor.
Yeah. People are like hashtagging and doing stuff, but they're sending me stuff to cover. So for the first time, we're gonna do some live covering of books. Yeah. Real quick, I want to put one up. 7 Legions, which is from Michael Beacon. It's an Indiegogo campaign.
Get some writer's perspective from this.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put up the video.
Yikes!
Real quick.
I'm gonna sip on this coffee right now.
Is your audio on?
It's probably not. Hold on.
It's time to make your own in Windows Movie Maker.
It's not. It's not on, is it? You guys can't hear that again.
Let me do it. It'll be extra
You have
salty.
to do it outside. There
In a
you
world.
go.
All right, here we go. I will do it.
Where there's nothing but trouble.
Yeah. All right.
Two
there we go.
samurais are friends.
Let me go back here. All right, ready? All right.
More videos.
Ooh. Hey, look. It's a Showtime ragtime font.
Maybe there's no sound that goes with this.
Notice? Hold on.
Okay, so it's just womp womp.
Yeah, it's just drums.
Okay, so angels are from Starship Troopers, and the samurai are mixed with Chinese influenced outfits. Interesting.
And look, it's a very quick video. However, it is available on Indiegogo, right? That's where I'm at. It's on demand right now. So the print tier, you're at $50 for the print tier. 22 of those have been claimed. But that art looks pretty good. I like that right there. That
and who is this by?
Michael Beacon, who is a member of the Kids Table. He's tuning in right now. Just got done in crowdfunding. Yeah, so he's tuning in. This is that looks. I like. I really like that. That looks like a poster to me.
It is.
That's first 5 pages of issue 1. He's got up there on his campaign, and I believe he's in demand right now because I believe. He may have because I know he's let's see here. At 4,119.
I was gonna say, scroll back down real quick.
Sure.
Back down to that page 2. Because like it starts off strong, but then like the head sizes change. Okay. Anybody else see the shift in style there? Or is that just me?
Might be you. Maybe
Like
you.
between page 1 and page 2, like scroll back up. Like look at the red head, and then look at the page before.
Oh, you mean like there's? I think there's a change in the coloring a little bit, but
Yeah, the coloring style is sped up.
Yeah.
I do think though, like I like the design of that ship. See, I look at ships and stuff like that, and I can't design stuff like
It's
that. I've
3D
tried.
generated. It's
Yeah.
3D generated and drawn,
I can't do it.
which applies.
Now
to-
we have to. We're gonna have to get Michael on the show and talk about his campaign at some point very soon.
See what he did, what made different.
Because we have to make sure no one pulls a Hicks, and no one can pull a Hicks again.
Welcome aboard, Mike.
That looks pretty cool though. Yeah,
I do like the wings on the Starship
Hey, Michael.
Trooper outfits.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
time
yeah,
shift thing is.
is he in the
fantastic.
chat? Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, he just
Hey,
said hello.
Hello, Michael.
You missed it.
Yeah, we are looking at your book now. Are you in? I'm not sure. Are you? This is in demand now, I believe. So,
Yeah, I
It
think that's
reminded
what
me
it
a
said about-
lot of the Batman Samurai show.
the Samurai Batman. Yeah, Seven
Yeah.
Legions. It's
Ninja Batman or whatever they were calling it. Like the color tones and the shades and the angles specifically.
he has another. So he has a
Which is not bad. It's like half of our job is to be like, hey, what is this? It's this meets this. It's Living Corpse meets Harbinger or anything like that. Like any kind of comics and etc.
When
When
We
they
should have
mix
him
it
on
together.
as soon as we can to talk about it.
2,000 years.
We are in
Maintaining
demand.
the peace between the Allied empires until he uncovered a plot by the Legion's greatest enemies to destroy them from within. But before he could warn the others, he
Sorry, my YouTube has been.
vanished, leaving only his memories behind in the dreams of Hiko, an orphan who became a samurai in a time of chaotic civil war that would pit his clan against their former allies.
I'm curious who his
Now
Ronin
he
is.
choose
Oh wait,
between
it
fighting
doesn't
the
work
war
as
that
Ronin. What am I
threatens
saying?
the
It's
family of
Shogun.
men, or facing the galactic threat he is destined to end when he barely knows his own world. Set in a universe where history as we know it is the continuation of a much larger story, where humanity had traveled among the stars for thousands of years until the leaders of man, under the guidance of Lucifer, betrayed the other races to gain the powers of the Seraphim. These human nations were defeated, stranded on Earth, with only the simplest tools to rebuild from. Over time, they would forget the other races, aside from the myths and legends we know today. Now the Earth is protected by the Seven Legions, until humanity can once again travel to the stars. This is just the start of the Seven Legions series, a sci-fi, fantasy, historical fiction, space opera, Star Wars mixed with Skyrim, and an Akira Kurosawa film. It's a universe that's been in the works for 13 years. Our goal was $3,000 to fund the art for issue 2 and the print runs of issues 1 and 2. All backers will receive both books signed, a total of 50 pages, with your name on the thank you page. $20 gets you the books, $50 gets you the books and print, $100 gets you drawn in as an enemy of the Seven Legions, $150 gets you drawn in as a soldier of the Seven Legions, and $500 gets you drawn in as a character of importance in the issue, with a chance of returning. Funding is just the beginning. When we get to our goal, we can move on to the stretch goals, adding swag items, bookmarks, trading cards, buttons, dog tags, and bomber patches. Additional art prints, up to 6 by talented artists. If we really smash the stretch goals, we can move forward to issues 3, 4, and 5, ultimately ending with all 5 issues gathered in a trade paperback. So back the Seven Legions today and get in on this exciting new epic.
That looks pretty good. Now we'll have to check that out. Michael, let me. I'll try to get in touch with you on Facebook at some point, or in the Twitter conversation we got going on here. We'll get you on the show and talk about Seven Legions. That looks pretty interesting. I know
How
Randy
you created it, the design, the style, the unifying of multiple genres. That's
What
the
you-
fun.
What were you saying, Randy?
Nothing.
Okay. And then
I agree with
of course-
you. Have him on soon.
And then, of course, we have to cover our good friend of the show, Anthony Figueroa, who crossed over his $10,000.
Hey, congrats to him.
$11,145. He is also now in demand with God's hand. Really excited. I'm super happy for Anthony. He's a good guy, and deserves every penny. And he's in demand. So if you want to pick up this
Roberto
book,
and Andrea, if you haven't seen this, it's basically BRPD with a 90s Joe Maduro feel to it.
Yeah,
but of course, it's very heavily New Orleans centric. Focusing on the local myth and lore.
Yeah, it's I backed it, and it's gonna be March 2020. But just wanted to give a shout out to Anthony as he crossed over his.
And
he
he'll still be in
$10,000.
demand for a while, though.
Also. Oh yeah,
so there's still time to get in on it.
Yeah,
dun dun dun.
If you
the
have
final countdown.
And then friend of the show as well, good old Sim's payback blood hunt. Payback is or a debt in blood. He is in.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. He did all the pencils, inks, colors, and writing for this story.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah,
so.
like it's all 100% him. He hit his back probably 2 months ago.
Yep, and it's currently in demand. And then he just announced
the new one.
I'm breaking it right here. I'm breaking it. He can't stop me. What's he gonna do? Is he gonna jump on Twitter and yell at me? He just announced his new book. Is that Demona? And
oh look, it's a counter character.
Reminds me of the Bagger era, but I like those cars. And he hasn't. This is coming soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
Work in progress.
I think one of the interesting things when we discuss like going and backing comic books on IndieVolt or Kickstarter or anything like that, or Indiegogo, not IndieVolt, I'm sorry, Indiegogo. Any of these crowdfunding things, it's great. I'm not sure. I haven't done an Indiegogo campaign, but Kickstarter now, of course, allows you to add on shipping afterwards. Like you go, hey, here's your backing, but that doesn't include your shipping cost.
Really?
Yeah, like at the very end of it, like it's like, okay, USPS, like you as the person who creates the Kickstarter campaign, you go, hey, if it's USPS, it's going to be this much. If you ship it FedEx, it's going to be this much.
That would have saved
and then they at the end get to choose. So you have that add-on cost, which is great for that. So when they take their 10%, you're also creating, hey, you're not losing the 10% plus shipping plus everything else. You're going to be getting that shipping cost. Try to keep it marginal. Whereas I'm not sure with Indiegogo, but keeping your costs super low is what I've seen really helps with an Indiegogo campaign. Like if you keep it under 10K, you keep it under 6K, 3K, then that's going to help push that printing level.
Just print the.
Actually, don't go catalog style, but
just print it on the back of the book.
Here's my box.
Yeah, let's put a sticker on the book. How about that? We'll just also so we got that.
Print an address on the back cover.
Yeah, that's all we need to do. So yeah, I guess we are. Well, I want to.
We're running
ask Andrea.
Towards the end there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andrea,
there we go.
Where can we find you at online? Where can pick up the Shepherd? Where can people follow you? Where can as well as your son? Because you guys are all a team. So how can they get in contact with the team over there that's behind the Shepherd?
Well, you can find us at the Shepherd Comic on Instagram. We're on the on the Facebook page. It's Caliber, the Shepherd at Caliber ENT. Then we've got the Shepherd Caliber for Twitter. That'd be to find us on social media. It's easy enough to do. And then to buy the book, I would direct you to the Caliber Comics website and buy it there. I invite you to buy it at the Caliber website. The reason for this is that if you buy it on Amazon or Comixology, they're going to take the big lion's share. I don't think people realize, like Comixology, for those people who don't know, you buy a book on Comixology takes 50%. Yeah. I think that's really wonderful. I really do. I feel very good about that. That seems just. 50% for doing nothing. So they get 50% and then the publisher takes 25 and then you're getting 25. So if you buy the digitally, if you want it digitally, Caliber can sell it to you digitally right on the Caliber Comics website. and you can order the books right through Caliber Comics, and the creators are going to get a lot more of the money that way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the other platforms,
yeah. I haven't put any. Yeah, I agree.
Don't get started on Diamond, please. I don't really even. Yeah.
Michael Beacon
Diamond distribution. Have you ever tried to get a book in? Well, it sucks to be you.
All I can hope is that if there is a nuclear war, that they get first strike. They get it the first on, so we can all say, yeah, they got it. Okay, we're ready to die.
I want it to be said real quick that Dad is the reasonable one of the two of us as well. He really means it.
Oh yeah.
I did an entire publishing
I
company.
like
We did
Roberto
over-
already. It was like,
over
what's your
15
opinion of this? I think we should set fire to it. And then,
I
take
did
the
a
ashes,
whole
reform
I did a
them,
whole
and set fire to
publishing
that
company
again.
once with a guy I set up as a publisher because I got tired of banging the phone on the counter talking to my Diamond rep.
Yeah. No, I hear him.
But by the way, this show is brought to you by Diamond Distribution. That was getting but
Kablam!
Like 90%.
Make sure you print it with our girl on the back.
Michael Beacon says, if I ever gave my book to a fulfillment company and they shipped the book naked, that's when I go Vlad the Impaler. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. That's why you gotta keep your eyes open. Michael, we gotta contact each other, so I gotta get you on the show at some point. And if you're watching on YouTube, everybody, remember to like, subscribe,
Hit that like button.
and that subscribe button. It's very important. But yeah. All right, so everybody, I want to thank you for coming on the show, Andrea, and thank you and your family. We really appreciate it. Stick around because I want to talk to you more off the air just for a little bit.
Okay.
And then, but first, before I do that, everyone should remember, I'm not going to put the graphic. I'm going to save everybody up the graphics today. I'm not going to put the graphics up, but actually, why not put the graphics up? They're right here. Why not? I might as well.
It's just a click. It's just a cool video.
Just a click. If you want some of your questions read, it's very easy to do so. All you got to do is email us at indievoltlive@indievolt.com. Include IndieVolt Live in the subject, and please keep those emails to 90 words or less. You can leave the expletives in. We'll read those on there. Randy reads them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Watch your spelling.
Tell me what to do.
IndieVolt TV is the over-the-top streaming service available on Roku and coming very soon to Amazon Fire Stick and more. Stream independent movies, music videos, wrestling, original documentaries, and more on IndieVolt TV. And hey, did I mention it's free? IndieVolt TV, you can find it by
It's free.
Store on the Roku device or Roku-enabled television. And finally, IndieVolt Radio, which is, we have people listening right now. As a matter of fact, I should have mentioned that. We have, right now, currently, we have, oh, Randy, we're so freaking close. 933 listeners.
Oh, someday.
IndieVolt Radio.
Someday we'll hit that extra digit.
Yeah. So IndieVolt Radio, you can take IndieVolt with you wherever you go. IndieVolt Radio is a perfect companion to our official website, indievolt.com. IndieVolt Radio plays the best in indie music, entertainment, news, and more 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can hear music from talent like Chemical, Park Squares and Alleys, and Dims One. Download the IndieVolt Radio app on Android, Google Play Store, or listen in with the streaming app on iOS. You can also check out IndieVolt Radio by visiting our official site, indievolt.com, and utilizing the built-in player right there on the front page. It's fairly simple. We've done all the hard work for you. So, IndieVolt Radio, IndieVolt TV. At this rate, we'll probably have IndieVolt phones by next year. God.
Look, it's on the back of my phone case.
Yeah. So thank you guys for being here with me. Me and Randy and everyone will be back with you Thursday morning at 9 a.m.
Yeah,
as well as we're here every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. If you're listening in on IndieVolt Radio, we appreciate it. Please keep the questions coming. The Ask Me Anything was down this week for this show, so we're gonna figure out a way around that. I'm probably gonna have people just tweet to us. That helps anyway. So yeah, Andrea, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I will see you at the show. What's your next show?
We're
Convention event.
Wizard World New Orleans.
Okay, yeah.
And I want you to know that is purely, I'm going there purely for the food and the beignets, which are,
They make these things called Everclear slushies. I should warn you in advance because they are amazing.
No, I love New Orleans. I love that city. The food, the music, the people. I like everything about that city. Really.
We'll be down
I
there.
don't like
and
the mildew smell personally, but that's just me being overly honest.
Anthony's going to send you a strongly worded letter. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out. I'll see you guys. We're going to go off the air here, but I'll see you guys hang out for a second. All right. So everybody, next Tuesday, Randy.
Thursday morning. We'll see you Thursday morning next Tuesday.
See you guys.
9
I will see you probably in January. I'm going back in my hole to draw things.
All right, sir. All right. You guys take it easy. Until then, we will see you. Keep reading comics.